Our guest today has demonstrated that for as long as one dares to dream and persevere, anything is possible. However, one has to always remember success does not fall from the sky. What appears to happen overnight indeed took a lifetime to achieve. Hi, welcome to Season 8 Shanghai Talk of Fame. I'm your host, Wei Bing, and with us today, we have Mr. Deng Tai Luk, the founder and group CEO of myNews Holdings Berhad. Mr. Deng, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, I know you're a very busy person. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me.
All right. So, everyone's very curious because myNews, or previously known as myNews.com, has been around for a long time, actually.
25 years, to be
25
exact.
years. Started in 1997.
It's actually December 96, so it's 97.
Which was kind of like, that was about the pretty much a recession time, right?
Yes,
moving
yes,
into the recession time.
Yes, it wasn't a good time.
Why that time frame? Why that particular time?
It was my desire to always wanted to be a businessman.
Uh-huh.
So when the opportunity came around, I just took it up.
with it.
Yeah, took it up. And it was a small business, irrespective of good or bad times. Just a news stand.
Small business. So it means you intentionally wanted to start it small, or?
I didn't have money. I didn't have much money. I was already 10 years into my job, my working career. So I chanced upon, I saw a retail lot in Wanutama shopping center that was left vacant. Just 200 square feet. So the complex was already open, running, and this lot was vacant. So I checked with the landlord and I said I wanted it. That was the opportunity to get into the business. And that lot is designated for a news agent, to be a newsstand, no other business. So the startup was, the desire to be an entrepreneur was what enabled the startup when the opportunity came. But the type of business was an accident.
Oh, meaning to say, I was just about to ask you, was it because that lot was meant to be a newsstand, hence a newsstand, or because you wanted to start out a newsstand business?
No, it was meant
because
for
of the lot.
Newsstand, yeah, a small lot, and I couldn't start anything bigger than that. I mean, I couldn't think of a big business.
And I understand there was a little drama, like apparently you were only given 24 hours to decide.
That's correct, because I left the message to say that if I could have the lot, let me have it. And then maybe about 2 weeks down the road, and then I get a call. I was working outstation to say that you better decide if you want. It's now open for you. If not, then we'll give it to another person.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's like against 24 hours.
Yeah, so within the same day, I went home for lunch and discussed with my wife. And we took it down.
Okay. Because at that point of time, you also have just came out from 2 failed businesses, right, before that?
The first one was rather long ago.
It's the
when
magnetic.
I first graduated,
Yeah, magnetic nets.
Correct, yeah. When I first graduated and with a couple of friends. So I was a passive partner, I was still working. Yeah. And then the second one, I was a very minority.
Oh, sorry.
Very
right.
minority.
So it wasn't like an immediate right before the newsstand started. Okay.
No, but I had always wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Why entrepreneurship?
Because I believe that entrepreneurship will enable me to break away from hardship. It will change my life and the lives of people around me. So that's why I've always been motivated. Like one day, I hope to have a business.
So has it been proven that it is indeed a break away from hardship, or actually it makes your life harder?
The journey is tough, but the result is very satisfactory. So for new beginners, new entrepreneurs, I do encourage, if you have that motivation, the desire.
So it's worth the challenge then.
It's worth the challenge, it's definitely worth the challenge.
Okay, and I understand also your father was a huge inspiration in your life.
He definitely has been my inspiration. He's no longer around. He's still my inspiration today in Seoul. Because he has been a very hardworking man. He was just a rubber tapper, bringing up a big family. So when I was very young, he took me along to work in the plantations, in the paddy field. It was tough at the age of 10 or so. And then as the family was growing up, as all my siblings were growing up, moving on to higher education, he actually supplemented the family's income by going into a small business, a small welding workshop. And then he brought me along as well during school break, holidays, public holidays, weekends. So that was my first exposure to the business world, to be entrepreneurship, even though it was a very, very small one. And
This is back in Perak, right?
back in Perak many years ago. He has been very resourceful. He's resourceful, and he always find opportunity to get out of difficulties.
Okay.
Until today, he remains my inspiration.
There are 9 siblings, right? There are 9 of you.
9. You have
So
done
it wasn't easy at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
Soon after you started that newsstand, what was it like the first 6 months?
It was tough. It was very, very tough.
Considering you did not have any experience at the time.
I had no experience. I have little money. So it's only through hard work. But the younger generations would not know this. The toughest challenge comes from the industry itself, because print media industry was messy and primitive. For those who experience it, you have seen how piles of newspapers were sitting on the floor, print media, Shanghai, whatever, were hanging from the roof, from the ceiling, at the poles, on the beams. So it was very messy, very traditional.
Very fast moving as well.
Yeah, very fast moving. But the players in the whole industry wasn't easy to deal with. Very difficult to deal with, all because the trust factor was lacking. Nobody trusts anybody in the industry. So that made operating a business very tough. So what we have done to change was we immediately, not long after, created myNews, myNews.com those days, and then we modernized the concept. Instead of hanging from a ceiling, we have nice shelves, brightly lit, beautiful stores. And then at the back, we started to implement SOPs to deal with the supply chain, to influence them to follow the methods, to make sure that goods are properly delivered and counted. And we introduced technology as well along the way, in having point of sale systems, inventory control, and all those. So that's how we overcome that challenge, and we were able to influence the industry to change. But unfortunately, digital came along.
Which changes the game, changes the game plan.
Yeah.
So why the name myNews?
The name myNews is all because we were selling news, newspapers and print media. But the original name .com has its purpose, because it was during the .com boom. We actually went online.
Nothing to do with your computer science background, or was it part of it?
It has a lot to do with that. So we were selling print media online, and then at the same time we created a lot of information online. That was way back in the late 90s. New arrivals, best-selling titles. We just put it up on the website, and that was way before any payment gateway. We were already there. So that's why the .com.
I see, but you have recently just dropped the .com, just
yes,
myNews.
Yes.
So in 25 years, you have grown from one single store, and at the time it was called McBeat. Right?
McBeat was the first
very first store, right?
Yeah, exactly.
First of all, why McBeat, and how is it from McBeat to becoming myNews?
Okay, McBeat was because we started selling magazines, print media, and then if you remember, usually newsstand was allowed to sell candies and
the olden days, the mama newsstands.
Yes. Tidbits and candies.
Yeah.
That's where the bits come from. Tidbits, Mac and Bits, McBits. Why myNews transformed? That is why we are at what we are today. Because as digital media replaced print, we quietly revolutionized to transform ourselves to be a modern convenience store. So the name myNews became a household name, so we did not want to change that. So we maintained that myNews name. Everybody knows it, even though the business has transformed to become a convenience store. So the transformation allow us, or rather prevent us to become obsolete. And then at the same time, we become a new form of business, meet the trend, keep up with the trend, and grow from there until today.
So it seems to me like you are someone who is very much into innovations and believing in changes.
Oh yes.
Have you always been like that? Is that your personality?
Actually, it is not only me, it's the whole team, the whole company. We have always been changing. Change allows us to, like I say, to stay relevant.
To be the leader.
Yeah, to stay ahead. And also, if you're innovative, then you are able to grow your top line, as well as you continue to bring in new opportunities whenever it comes by. And like what Steve Jobs said, innovation differentiates a leader from a follower.
Which is very obvious nowadays. We have seen a lot of sort of like very similar kind of convenience stores around the country.
Yeah, yes.
So you are actually the first to start this idea.
There are, maybe we are the largest homegrown brand, but there are international brands around that were already in existence when we came in the picture. So convenience store is a very agile and a fast-changing retail segment. So it is interesting.
When you started this MacBit and eventually to become myNews, you mentioned that you did not want that magazine hanging on the ceiling, and what gave you the idea?
I have to attribute that change to a brother of mine who graduated as an architect. So he came back and he joined me.
Because this kind of layout in those days are unheard of.
You are right. It's the best in this region, not only in Malaysia. We know.
Nobody did it that way.
Yeah.
We have the traditional convenience store, but they do not sell magazines. It's pretty much just a convenience store.
Yeah, that's right. So the outlook, the setup, the distinctive feel is my brother's idea. It's being an architect. The look and feel, the lightings and all. So, and then from then on, we continue to change.
I see. So now in 25 years, it's grown from one single store at a lower ground of a shopping complex to now have over 490 stores, myNews alone, not counting the other new ventures. And I understand you just started this, you just brought in the CU, which is a very well-known convenience store brand from Korea.
It's number one in Korea.
Number one in Korea.
In Korea, they have 15,000 stores.
15,000 stores.
See how small we are.
Wow, okay. So is that a joint venture or is that a...
No, it's a franchise.
It's a franchise.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the time of just 2 years, right? You started, no, less than 2 years. You started last year, 2021.
April 1st, 2021, we opened the first store. And then from April 1st to October 1st, there was full lockdown and some buffer to work. We were able to open 3 stores because of a lockdown. Then from October 1st, the government started to relax the MCO. So from October 1st until now, we have added 65 stores.
Okay.
So about on the average 15 stores a month.
And that is like in the midst of the pandemic.
Yeah, we have no choice. We have no choice. We have to catch up with the loss.
So it was already planned before pandemic?
No, actually we took down CU in the middle of pandemic.
Ah, okay.
Right in the middle of pandemic.
Because it seems to me like, you're not afraid of challenges. First of all, you started your very first store back in 97, which is when the economy was going down the drain. And then this CU store you started like in the midst of the pandemic.
In the midst of pandemic.
Did it just happen coincidentally or?
This was the reason. Through the pandemic, we closed up to 200 stores temporarily. Because
myNews?
Yes, myNews. Because offices, locations were affected, schools, everywhere it was
manpower.
Affected. So we closed up to 200 stores and then we reopened 100 of them. The other 100 permanently closed, no hope. But it has to recover. We have to recover. We can't just go on. Pandemic, post-pandemic recovery and all those has to come in place. That's why we started to reposition. And then we brought in CU and then we created the myNews Super Value for the new norm customers. That's how we reposition.
《商界领航白起名传2022》正式接受提名。
So we're talking about during the pandemic. Well, pandemic it is indeed a huge challenge for all industry across the board.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not just myNews, not just convenience store. But I suppose convenience store will be one of the badly hit because people couldn't go out. People couldn't go physical shopping.
Yeah, right.
And you mentioned that during that time, you're temporarily closed 200 outlets.
That's correct.
myNews alone.
Correct.
Right, and since half of that have reopened,
Yes.
yeah, and hence we have 490 outlets. So, if not for the pandemic, how many outlets do you foresee that you would have by
We
today?
could have easily achieved over 700 outlets,
700 outlets.
or have 700 outlets today, because it has been almost 2 years without growth. Actually, through the pandemic, we also opened 105 outlets as of end of financial year 2021. So we permanently closed 100. We opened 105. Oh, that includes CU as well.
That includes CU as well. Now, CU, as mentioned earlier, is this top convenience store brand from Korea, right? And at the moment, you have over 68 CU stores
Yeah, it's 68,
across like the entire
Malaysia.
country, right? In the country.
Yes.
So the first one was, the first CU store was opened in?
On April 1st.
April 1st, April
Yeah.
2.
Yeah, Center Point, Bandar Utama.
I see. Why that location? Is there a specific reason?
The first available for us at that time.
Now, what has changed? Actually, from the very beginning, when you were offered that 200 square feet lot, without negotiation power, until today, I understand that today all the top shopping malls in Malaysia were waving at you guys, asking you guys to join them.
What has changed?
That is like a tremendous change, right?
It has been.
For a newsstand company, especially.
It has been. To tell you the story, newsstand business was not fitted or suited for shopping malls. So
Never was, yeah.
Never was. So it so happens that there was a lot beside you just mentioned basement, beside the parking lot, very close to the staircase. So it was open. We had experience of asking to get into malls, and it's always a lot,
Under the staircase.
Under the staircase, and that was about it. So
Next to the shoe cobbler.
exactly, because the newsstand those days were cluttered, were messy. If they put you in a prime location, you would just ruin the whole place.
Yeah.
But with myNews, we actually
You have changed the
changed
entire
yes,
image.
the ambience and image. So that's how we were able to get into malls and then move into better locations.
And it's grown from, at the beginning, you're only selling newspapers, magazines, and a little bit of like tidbits,
Yeah.
until today, where you have this new branding, or rather, say a new hybrid business called the myNews Super Value. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, myNews Super Value was actually found or created in the middle of pandemic.
Again.
Yeah. So we realized, or it was obvious that customers want convenience they want accessibility to be able to buy essential items, especially cooking items. They don't want to travel far.
Yeah.
In a close proximity.
And especially during the pandemic, the crowded supermarket is the last place I want to be.
Correct. It is very suitable for residential area, like next to condominiums and all those. So people just grab whatever they need. So that's how Super Value came about. And it worked well. It is a brand that we want to grow further.
What's the main difference between myNews Super Value and myNews, the traditional myNews?
myNews is a smaller format. and the sizes varies because of our legacy. So we started off the story as print media, 200 square feet, 300 square feet, 400 square feet. So over the last few years, the myNews store become standardized because we introduced food, coffee, and everything. So we needed that bigger space, but there were so many old stores that were small. But myNews Super Value will be pretty much at least 2,000 square feet to be able to carry that number of items and enough stock for the consumers.
Were you worried that consumers will not be able to quite put the finger on myNews Super Value? Like, is this a mini mart? Is a newsstand? were you worried, concerned that there'll be a confusion in the branding part of it?
Not myNews Super Value, maybe more on myNews.
Why so?
Because we started as print media, and then because of the size, and also the tenancy agreement and all those, so we were not
There's
able
restrictions
to,
on that.
Yes, we're not able to standardize or making it uniform. But Super Value is very uniform, and also it's very niche and close to residents, more or less the neighborhood knows.
So would you say the Super Value myNews Super Value is essentially quite an independent entity?
Independent brand, but also driven by us. So under our umbrella, we have myNews Super Value, WH Smith, CU, and myNews. So these are the 4 brands, and they're very distinct. And the path forward will be very much on CU and Super Value.
And what do you see the industry is heading in Malaysia when it comes to convenience store and mini mart?
It's going to get very interesting. It's getting very competitive, and it's very interesting. And you can see that there are new entrants, especially international brands. Over the last 5 years, we can feel the competition getting more intense, and it is very good for the country. It is truly good because I know, I always tell the story that convenience store is an infrastructure. If you imagine if you have a convenience store next to your office, close to your home, it serves you very well. Grab what you want. It's also a drop-off point for your parcel to pick up drop-off points. It can do reloads, all kinds of services. Plus, small area of 1,000 square feet, but there are at least 2,000 different items inside there for you to pick.
Okay.
Yes.
2,000 SKUs. That's a lot.
There is what you are able to get. So, run out of toothpaste, walk in, grab one before the long weekend shopping. The things like this. It's there to serve you.
Okay. So it's essentially like a cross between a mini mart and also a convenience store.
Convenience store. Yes, we call it small box, smaller basket.
Okay.
You don't buy in bulk, big volume, but it serves you what you need.
I understand you also created this academy. Can you tell us about the academy on the customer service? Is it like a training?
It's a training center. It's an
training center?
in-house training center. We call it Center of Excellence.
Okay.
That's where we train our people before we put them out to
So
the
they're
field.
all in-house trained?
In-house trained. Of course, once in a while we'll bring in coach and all those. Yes. It is necessary because I think we all agree that the service level in the country
Can be better.
There's a lot of room to improve.
Especially in Malaysia service
Yes.
hospitality industry. Yes, there's still a huge room to be improved. And you also have some joint venture on the bakery part of it.
Bakery and food.
That's still running?
It is. We started that. We started building it. It took us about 2 years. We launched it towards the second half of 2019, before the pandemic.
Right before the pandemic.
Right before the pandemic. So it was necessary because number one is at that time Malaysia lacked such infrastructure.
Okay, it's interesting you say it's necessary because I understand for a lot of convenience store or even supermarket, they'll prefer to outsource like a loaf of bread, all this pastry and bakery part of it. Why? What makes you decide to have your own?
Bakery maybe, but not for fresh food, ready to eat food. So if you go to Thailand today, you walk into the convenience store in Thailand or
Which is
Korea
very
or
different,
Japan,
yeah.
it is so attractive.
Yes.
Despite the number of street food out there, people still line up in convenience store because they have very strong food processing centers supporting the convenience chain. They produce the quality, the hygiene, it's standardized, and it serves a large scale consumption. So meaning to say, we are smaller, like let's say 500 stores, right? If one store sells one item, there is 500 items. So usually you sell like 30 SKUs, 30 types. So if each type you are able to sell 10 units per store, that's 300. 300, you multiply that by 500 stores. So that is the kind of volume you have to churn up to the customers. And also the logistic. Logistic is very important. The temperature, the cleanliness, the hygiene. If you deal with different vendors, all the place,
It's
come in
hard to
different
control.
They're very hard to control.
Yeah.
Come in
So would you
different
say that is for customers to buy into the trust and the confidence they have in
Yes,
your
it's
brand?
very, very important.
Yeah.
We have actually brought it up to the same level as Japan. Because it's operated by Japanese, our partners. The whole infrastructure is set up by them, is managed by them. The ingredients, we mix Japanese
Yeah.
with locals and all those.
So essentially, when a customer is hungry, the first thing they look for is myNews.
Yeah, or CU. CU is
Yeah,
more
or-
food-centric.
or
Yeah,
CU
myNews and
coming
CU,
up.
yes.
Okay. So what is the future plan going forward? Because while technically, to say the business has recovered from the pandemic is not quite right,
No, not
because
fully
the pandemic is still here. So what is your recovery / expansion plan for the next 5 years?
We'll be very focused on growing CU. The feedback is very good. So we plan to have 500 stores in 5 years, CU. And then
CU itself.
CU itself. And then we will continue to grow myNews Super Value. Maybe myNews will be slower in growth because we have a CU more or less the same size and
Yeah.
same. Then the omni-channel. You'll be surprised that myNews was the first to launch delivery on demand online.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, we launched before the pandemic in 2019. Initially, we call it myNews Dash. So when pandemic start, it was doing very well because the other convenience players didn't have it. But now everybody has it because it became popularized
Yeah.
through the pandemic. Then we work with other platforms, delivery platforms like Grab and Shopee and all those. Of course, they have a lot of customers. They are huge. Yeah. And then we replace Dash with all these delivery platforms. So it is running. It still is today.
Yeah.
So we will continue to grow that.
Okay. Which is well, obviously that is the future direction, right?
Yeah, it's one of a channel, omni-channel, one of a channel of growth and sales.
Because everything, we're taking the cue from now, everything is going cashless,
Correct.
going online.
Yes.
So what do you see the future is gonna be for brick and mortar store, especially like myNews and?
Very good question. Actually, I like that question. Everybody used to take a position of brick and mortar or online. If you are with online, you're not with brick and mortar. Likewise. So the question had always been, what do you think? Which one will survive?
Yeah.
That question is, or that thought is no longer relevant. The two has merged. The two has merged. Has really merged into one. So they coexist very nicely. You talk about Amazon, they have Whole Food chain,
Yeah.
Grab just took over Jaya
Yeah.
Grocers. So actually they have merged to be one. So it's no longer a separation
The lines blur.
line, line in
Okay.
the middle.
Yeah. So from your background, from your story, it's very inspiring story because you came from the computer science background
many years ago.
And now you're like a very successful entrepreneur. So for those who are watching and still contemplating starting their own business but worrying they do not have the right background, what is the advice for them?
I think the background is one thing, but it's the motivation, let me put it as your desire to be entrepreneur. You must be aware that success does not fall from the sky. So whatever background that you come from, like you say, I'm from IT, success is a series of hard work, perseverance, and a very strong passion. So passion, perseverance, nowadays they call it grit. That is very necessary. If you are willing to work hard, if you have the strong passion and perseverance, it will keep you going and going, even when the going gets tough, just like through the pandemic.
Yes.
You will not give up. And the journey is very long. It took us 25 years. But it is real that it is long, because again, as what Steve Jobs said, if you look closely, most overnight successes actually took a long time.
It may appear so.
Yes, it's
But
actually
it's
took a
not.
long time. So for any new entrepreneur, you must have that readiness, willingness to be hardworking, persevere, have that strong passion to carry on, no matter how tough, and then be prepared for the long journey. But the reward is amazing, because the end result of success is very satisfying, especially if you are a self-made success. It is very satisfying.
Thank you so much. That's it for today's Shanghai Talk of Fame. This is Sweeping. I'll see you on our next episode.
本期节目非常感谢 YMing Marketing 的友情赞助。YMing Marketing 自1969年以来，作为马来西亚和新加坡最大装裱公司，企业客户包含 Genting Highland、Xerox、Maxis、DG、Cellcom、Marriott Group Hotels、Inti University 等企业，也荣获 SME 100大马快速发展企业奖和 JCI 国际轻商企业创意奖。感兴趣的朋友可以浏览 www.yming.com 获取更多详情。
商界领航，百川聚海2022正式接受提名。